And take three. Take one was Joe Biden last week responding to Fox News' Peter Doocy thusly.
As you were leaving for your overseas trip, there were reports that were surfacing that your administration is planning to pay illegal immigrants who are separated from their families at the border up to $450,000 each, possibly $1 million per family. Do you think that that might incentivize more people to come over illegally?
If you guys keep sending that garbage out, yeah, but it's not true.
So this is a garbage report?
Yeah.
Okay, so
$450,000 per person. Is that what you're saying?
that was separated from a family member at the border under the last administration?
That's not going to happen.
All right, that's not going to happen. Then the next day, Karine Jean-Pierre, the deputy White House spokesbeing, offered this further comment on the topic. It is going to happen.
President Biden is calling these reports about the administration paying up to $450,000 to illegal immigrants who are separated from family members garbage. He says it's not going to happen. But the ACLU says that it is. So who is right?
Wait, are you talking about the question you asked him yesterday?
Yes.
So if it saves taxpayer dollars and puts the disastrous history of the previous administration's use of zero tolerance and family separation behind us, the president is perfectly comfortable with the Department of Justice settling with the individuals and families who are currently in litigation with the U.S. government.
So it is going to happen.
Right. And now,
So it's
now
not
there's
going to happen. It is going to happen. And now, not only is it going to happen, how dare you ask the question as to whether it's going to happen?
That this report about migrant families at the border getting payments was garbage.
No, I didn't say that. Let's get it straight. You said everybody coming across the border gets $450,000.
The number was what you had a
The
problem with.
number I was referring to.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing.
Sure.
If, in fact, because of the outrageous behavior of the last administration, you coming across the border, whether it was legal or illegal, and you lost your child, it's gone.
angry man.
You deserve some kind of compensation, no matter what the circumstance. What that will be, I have no idea.
And that's only going to encourage more people now. Like, hey, it is on. Let's go. This is the
can't
time
ask that
to
question.
cross over the border.
You can't ask the question. They're in full moral indignation mode to the question now. So building upon Joe Biden's comments on Saturday, they have to trot out their flacks like former Congressman Cedric Richmond, who's now some sort of half-assed policy advisor, to decry even having to field such an outrageous question.
The question was from a Fox reporter asking about whether compensation for being separated and losing a child would be an incentive to come to America. And what he was saying was that was an absurd question from the beginning. No one's coming somewhere to lose their child, to be separated from their loved one. And the question is so insensitive, disrespectful, that's what he was commenting to. And I would ask the question of you, whether you support that. I mean, at some point, we cannot, with a straight face, say that parents are willing to separate from a child for a dollar amount.
Well, they're willing to separate from the child to get them across the border. I mean, that's what coyotes are for. Otherwise, we wouldn't have unaccompanied minors, would we, Cedric? Number one, do you get separated from your children if you commit a crime and you're an American citizen in this country?
You're darn right you do.
You can't even ask the question. In addition to completely mischaracterizing Joe Biden, who apparently didn't know what Peter Doocy was talking about last week with the $450,000, had not seen the Wall Street Journal report. Then,
Well, he didn't even discuss it with the Department of Justice. Like, they didn't inform their boss of what plans they were implementing.
Well, okay, that's garbage. It's not going to happen. Then now it's characterized as he wasn't responding to whether or not there's going to be a settlement. He was responding to it's a garbage question. No, he wasn't. No, he was not. That's just, again, the purposeful disinformation, recharacterization of answers that were given because you have to walk them back. It is so dishonest, and it is so obvious if you just follow the trail for 5 seconds. Even somebody on the left could follow this trail. There's just no defense to what was said, what is now being said, and what is being said in characterization of what was previously said. Not to mention not to mention the questions about the underlying policy. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano for our weekly confab. He's the Vice President of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation and author of Brutal War, Jungle Fighting in Papua New Guinea, 1942. Jim, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, great to be with you.
Now, I'm going to risk the moral opprobrium of the Biden administration by asking the question: is that inappropriate to ask a question about settlement with respect to people who attempt to gain entry to this country illegally and are temporarily separated from their children and put into cages that the Obama administration built?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was, not to make you feel good, I just thought that was a brilliant summary of not just how this issue is, but what an exemplar of what we've seen from this administration over and over and over again, which is they totally screw up. In this case, the president was clueless as to what his own government was doing. Then they just lie and make up stuff, and they throw out pundits to cover up, but they don't address the underlying issue of the policy. So, I mean, let's actually talk about the policy. There is no legal justification for paying reparations to these people. There's not. Our lawyers have looked at this, and this is literally a leftist agenda to reward people for illegally crossing the border. So this is not about, and the Obama administration did the same thing, entering into these judgment agreements, not because they were legally correct, not because they were legally beneficial for Americans, but because they advanced a radical agenda. Obama did this. That's what the Biden administration is doing. That's the first thing. So there's no legal justification for this. I would actually say is the more appropriate response would have been to arrest those parents, because any parent that shows up at the American border with a child is guilty of reckless endangerment. That parent should not be allowed near that child. They've put that child's life at risk, and they have actually abrogated their responsibilities as a parent. They should not get $450,000. They should be tried for a crime.
Well, now if people hear this information again, they're going to rush to the border, don't you think?
And that's the other piece of this, which is this is basically the administration doing more advertising for illegal immigration, demonstrating yet again that the ACLU and Open Society and every leftist voice, which is basically giving them their marching orders on this issue, that they will do nothing to actually secure the border. And if you're going to run into America and get this date, now is the time to do it. Remember, this is on top of insisting that somehow in their multi-trillion-dollar reconciliation bill that they validate every illegal entry into the United States, give them green cards, let them work, figure out how they can vote. They have been crystal clear on this, that they have no interest in border security in any way, shape, or form. Therefore, I'm shocked that the president even, when he didn't even understand the question. But obviously, they're looking for ways to get people illegally into this country, and of course, they're going to offer people any kind of legal claim they make whatsoever. Of course, they're going to reward them for that, because the idea is to get them to come here.
I want to get your take on the developments in the Russiagate investigation, the Durham investigation, with the indictment of Danchenko last week. Peter Strzok came out of his hole, or his cushy office at Georgetown, to comment on the claim that there was some sort of FBI investigation into the Trump campaign. I mean, this is remarkable.
Whether intentionally or not, when you look at the balance of those pages, they have subtle dog whistles to these kind of pro-Trump conspiracy theorists. Statements like, the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign relied on certain things. Well, there was never an FBI investigation of the Trump campaign, unless you listen to some, kind of far extreme right commentators or folks in Congress who assert that there was. But that's nonsense.
There was never an investigation into the Trump campaign?
Yeah, good luck, Peter. This is, kind of exactly the same strategy as the president did. This whole term dog whistle, which you hear every 5 seconds out of them on every single issue, that everything is somehow, the sneaky conspiracy, racist, white supremacist thing to hold people off from the truth. This is not going to hold up. I think, first of all, any of these people who say anything are idiots. I mean, there's a reason why Comey stopped tweeting, Brennan stopped tweeting. These people are all in legal jeopardy. And really the smartest thing for them to do now would be to say as little as possible.
Well, and John Solomon, who was on with from Just the News, who was on with Maria Bartiromo yesterday, made the point that what he sees is this, may not be moving at the pace we want, but with the indictments of Sussman, the Clinton lawyer, and now Danchenko, he sees Durham moving up and he also said there's grand jury activity going on that in the direction of higher ups at the FBI, but he sees them moving up the food chain. Is that your sense?
Yeah, I mean, this appears to be unfolding as kind of a typical RICO investigation would. And RICO is a conspiracy law that we put in place so you can charge people for a conspiracy. And it was primarily used to take down the mafia, but that was how they would start. They would get soldiers, and then you get capos, and it would lead them to the Don. And they would have these unfolding cases, in part because the lower cases built evidentiary base for the higher prosecutions, but also because that they got people to flip, and that opened up additional information. So, yeah, if I were these guys, I would be really worried. And I think the bigger issue for all Americans is, okay, let's step one big step back and now look at what we have. Russiagate, quid pro quo, the insurrection, all of these were manufactured attacks on the President of the United States to impeach him. They were manufactured by people. They were pumped up and legitimatized by the mainstream press. They were all based on intentional conspiracies that were started to indict and impeach the President of the United States. And they were all lies. 0 for 3 on that, on the press. On the other hand, going back to Obama and the Benghazi video to disguise their failure in Libya, Clinton's server, and Hunter Biden's laptop, all three of those stories were absolutely factually accurate and true, and intentionally buried by government officials and the press. This is not conspiracy theories. This is reality. And this is, the famous democracy dies in darkness. This, when people are 0 for 6 on 6 of the biggest political conspiracy stories in American history, 0 for 6 in 4 years, that is how democracy dies.
Well, then you have the Durham report, and we learned, last week that Igor Danchenko was arrested and charged with lying to the FBI about information he provided to Christopher Steele.
Yeah, I think this is just the beginning of this whole change. Because the obvious question is, okay, why did he lie?
Right.
Right. And when people are talking to the FBI, and let me tell you, I know this because I have, you lie for 2 reasons. One is to protect yourself, and one is to protect a greater crime. And the question is, which is here? It's hard to believe, because if he just said, oh, yeah, he wasn't going to be liable for it. So why did he do that? And the only explanation is he was trying to protect a greater crime.
So Eli Lake, writing in Bloomberg, asked the question. I mean, at least he's asking it, but I think it's the wrong question. He's got it the reverse. Was the FBI manipulated by the Democratic Party?
Well, see, here's the problem.
That's one question. Another question, which with these cutouts like Danchenko and Steele and Hillary Clinton sort of moving these chess pieces around, was the FBI another chess piece?
Well, this is the problem when you say the FBI, because there's really 2 FBIs here. There's the FBI that goes out every day, hunts down criminals and protects people and everything else. And then there are political appointees in the FBI. There are people in the FBI who act as political agents to political appointees because their sympathies and their fortunes and their salaries and their friendships and they ran an agenda all their own. So I
I understand the separation. I understand the separation. People on this show know who we're talking about. We're talking about senior leadership. We're talking about Comey and McCabe and Strzok and maybe Bruce Orr over at Justice. We're not talking about rank and file agents trying to find kidnapped kids. But look, the question though here is, is the FBI being manipulated? Hillary Clinton is at the center of the universe, twisting these dials and pulling these levers, or does she have partners with this? And we need to come up with, not to get too John le Carre here, but we're going to give information to Danchenko, who'll give it to Steele, who'll give it to the FBI, and we're going to pretend that this information is coming from them, and you're going to receive it like it's coming from them.
Yeah, I think the question is was there actually active coordination by these political people in the FBI to be part of this conspiracy to bring down the President of the United States, or did they just leverage this on their own to make this happen? We should know the truth, but both of those are crimes and are equally wrong. It's like, did the mafia families collude with each other, or did they just separately go out and start whacking people? The reality is, in both cases, it's a crime. But it's important to know.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, that right. In terms of not losing sight of this amid all the details, is because you have the top federal law enforcement agency, possibly the Department of Justice, possibly the CIA, involved in taking down a president. If that doesn't matter, then talk about when democracy dies.
Right. I mean, this is kind of 7 Days in May stuff for people like remember the 1950s. I mean, where you actually have government agencies working against the president. But the reality is there were people in the U.S. government that were working to facilitate the impeachment of the President of the United States. That's not even an open question. That's a true statement. Now the question is are we going to hold them legally accountable? And are we going to get this all out on the table? So, look, we're never going to get the vast majority of media and everything else who... Look at the Washington Post. Do you think they're apologetic in any way for what they did? They just had like a 20-page spread on January 6th. They had a section in their paper that had more pages than they had on 9/11. Why is that?
Because it's bigger than 9/11 to them.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, VP of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation. The book, Brutal War, Jungle Fighting in Papua New Guinea, 1942. Thanks as always, Jim.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Is your current home loan the right fit for you? Near historic low rates may be a great reason to refinance, but when matched with an expertly chosen loan from Loan Depot, you could be saving money and paying more towards the bottom line. Call a Loan Depot loan officer and ask about our 27-year Smart Term loan or our 10-year ARM loan. Get a great rate matched with a great loan by calling 866-888-LOAN or visit loandepot.com. At Loan Depot, home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing opportunity. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50 states.
So here's some thoughts on how to survive Thanksgiving when Uncle Harry shows up with his green bean casserole that made everyone sick last year.
Yeah.
Just smile and say, Harry, you shouldn't have, because really, he shouldn't have. Oh, Harry. Unc. Don't fall asleep at your dinner plate. The easy chair in front of the TV football games is the place for that. And finally, if you've got high blood pressure, check out my